So the agenda there, just I want to talk about OPG's sort of journey or history in CII and a bit of the blend of how you sort of improve your maturity or your leverage of your CII membership. I want to talk about the structure of CII and our participation structure, so how OPG set itself up to utilize the best practices and have some accountability around our membership as well for people who are actively involved in CII processes. And that covers the next few, and then at the end is the sort of CII graphic of net value add. So next slide. So we've been a member, and I don't have the exact date, but I think almost since its inception in 1993. We really want to expand, our value of the membership. Even though the membership, I think it's very cost effective. Some people think it's costly, but we think it's very cost effective. But we want to, use collaboration, innovation, and implementation of best practices, and also personal development. So it's a great chance for people to develop as project leaders in our company. And really, we view CII as our capital research and development function, which for the price of the membership is a fairly cheap proposition. And we'll continue to leverage the CII membership and best practices for improving our project performance. It's really handy to be able to when we're getting audited or we're up before our Ontario Energy Board, which is the regulator in the province, to be able to point to a best practice, an industry-wide best practice that's been developed through research as why we're doing things a certain way. It kind of it makes life a lot easier when we're dealing with regulators or auditors. Next. So as you start out, so you join, or you're the new board of advisor member, or maybe other people in your company left, so you've been handed this CII, file. What are you going to do? Well, when you start to get into it, you want to attend the CII events. So typically you'll attend the annual conference, you'll attend the board of advisors meetings, sector committee events. Find your sector and get involved there. Usually they're webinars or WebExes. And then CII lately has been putting on some great webinars. So there's lots of opportunity to get involved at, I'll say, a baby step. Not too costly, not a big time commitment, but you get an understanding of what CII is about. The other area to participate in early is the communities of business advancement. Where are you struggling, or where do you have an interest? Is it project controls? Is it safety? Is it modularization? What are you interested in, and get you or a few of your staff or people in your company involved in those communities of business advancement. And that's really a great development opportunity for our staff as well, and also a great way to see what's happening in the industry. It's also great, and a lot of people do this when they first join, is to get into the knowledge base, look at what best practices you need, because usually you join, you're having trouble in some area, and you want to leverage a best practice right away pretty much. And that's where you identify and adapt one or two best practices, like the PDRI, the project delivery contracting strategy tool. Things like that are easy to implement and get you going down a road of improving your project maturity. Next. Oh, by the way, just back up that one slide. That CII Best Practices Handbook is a great reference that lays out all the best practices, and you can cross-reference that with the knowledge base there and get a good understanding of where you may need some help and what CII has in store to help you. Next. So what are the next steps? So increased participation. People are developing. You're getting good leveraging best practices, getting more engagement, and then again leveraging that membership. So what we've done is we've structured our participation. So it's not just ad hoc. We have a CII charter, an OPG CII charter that says how we are managing our membership, and then we have an annual participation plan. What are we up to this year? Who's on what team? Who's on the CBA? What are they bringing back to the company? What are we going to implement in our company around best practices this year? Again, it's not a lot of time. It's a couple of times a year and someone to sort of manage it, but it really does make a big difference if you want to take your membership to the next level. We place individuals on research teams of value to your company or industry. We pretty much have 1 or 2 people per year on a research team in any given year. We've probably had up to 4, but I'd say it's usually one to 2. You want to increase your influence at the board of advisors meetings. You need to be brainstorming those research topics, trying to use your influence with your with people in your sector to influence to help solve your problems that you're experiencing in our industry. Again, we increased our role in power utilities infrastructure sector, so get involved in your sector and subcommittees of that sector. And if you're not happy, maybe you're not getting a lot of value out of it, then you need to start creating the value. It really is up to the individual to take the ball and run with it. Start increasing your participation in the communities of business advancement to leadership roles, either a chair or a vice chair, or volunteer to do some studies with them or surveys, things like that. And then within your company, spread that value message. Continue to create the engagement and expand the membership within your company and outside the company. The more common language we have, the more commonality around CII best practices and the way we as companies do business within CII, I think the stronger the industry is as a whole. So that's why that's typically why we're trying to convince people, hey, this is there's a lot of value here. This is a great place to be and have people that are talking a common language. And if you can get some of your contractors on board, because we're an owner, it makes a difference too, because then we have common best practices, which really accelerates your benefits from CII. And then of course engage senior leadership in CII senior committees, such as the executive committee or other roles there. So that's sort of an advanced. That was sort of an advanced level of CII membership. What have we done? Well, we've institutionalized a bunch of the best practices you can see there. We use the PDRI system on all our projects. We're actively involved in the commissioning and startup best practices. We have, I don't know if you can read that guide on the side there, but we turned commissioning and startup and actually the quality management into 2 guides for our company, which really make give people a framework on how to utilize. Oh,
sorry, hold on. I was trying to.
It's okay. You don't have
to see it.
Just the cover page from the from our guide. There you go. Project Quality Management Guide. That's sort of a result. So that's an output of being involved in actually that we're on the project or the quality management metrics team and the quality community of business advancement, and we're actually piloting some quality management metrics on a $650 million project in Northern Ontario, and bringing all that knowledge back to CII to share with the members in that group. So I'm really pretty proud of the commissioning and startup and quality management aspects. Our interface management, we utilize that on our projects as well. I'm trying to leverage the alignment tools more to get less sub-performing project teams to perform at a higher level through alignment. That gives you an idea of what we're doing. We also have an I2PD, which I'm sure you're all familiar, being in facilities and healthcare, the IPD methodology, but we're in the I2, Integrated Industrial Project Delivery Method, and there's so many companies out there right now that are interested in collaborative contracting methodologies, because that's where you get a lot of success. A lot of successful projects when you're collaborating, the owner, contractor, and service providers are all collaborating to have a common view, common objectives, which is a successful project, and that makes a difference. And we're experiencing some good results so far with that process on our Otto Holden project in Eastern Ontario. Next. So that's just a picture of how CII is structured to give you an idea of, in case you don't know, because some people don't know, how it's structured with the sectors and the committees, and it sort of gives you an idea of where you can get involved. And matching up with that is, can you go to the next one? Is our structure. So it's a little hard to read, but at the top we have the Board of Advisors, which is myself, and John Blazanin, who's our alternate Board of Advisor member. We do, and this is a critical role because it's helped me out immensely, is Rana McClarty has been our deployment champion. So she really keeps us organized from this structure. And we have a biannual CII forum where we present out how things are going and where we're participating in research teams and CBAs. So she's very organized and helps out tremendously. So that's an important position. I'm also on the executive committee of CII as well. So that sort of takes over the senior leadership aspects. We are involved in the power utilities infrastructure sector, actively involved there. I was the vice chair before I left to go to the executive committee. And then you can see we're actively involved in many of the communities of business advancement. And we're actually the chair of the project. Ginny Lee works with me, is the chair of the project controls CBA. And there's a few research teams we're also involved in. You can see down the side there, or have been involved in. So it gives you an idea of sort of the breadth of the involvement. And again, it's managed through a biannual meeting of who's doing what, and ensuring that we're getting benefits back into our company from the involvement. And that's important. It's really a check-in. So it's not a go away and forget. It's not a join the community of business advancement and then never attend any meetings. It's getting active involvement and actively bringing that information back and utilizing it, leveraging it within our company. Next. So those are some of the key roles and expectations. I won't talk too much to it. You can see again on the side that's our terms of reference. So we did put together a terms of reference. Happy to share it with you as well. But it just lays out the fact that we're going to meet biannually. Usually we meet before the Board of Advisors meetings. There's an expectation that if you're involved, you're actually doing something and bringing things back to the company that you present out in those biannual meetings. And really, it's asking people to get engaged. And if you don't like it, if you think something's not quite working, then bring it back to us. I can influence fixing it, or you step up and fix it yourself and get that team performing. Next. So that's our CII internal committee that I said we meet biannually. And there's a typical agenda. So safety moment, introductions, any new participants to CII. I provide a general what's going on in CII update. And in this instance, which I think was our last meeting, we had a report out from the quality management community of business advancement. Again, that quality metrics initiative that we're participating in. We also had a report out from Advanced Work Packaging CPA Funded Studies Committee. I just put Matt Sickstrom is on the Funded Studies Committee now, and how the Advanced Work Packaging and Commissioning Startup research team is doing, and then an update from Project Controls. And the research team, RT362, which was the collaborative scheduling, they had a report out. The I2PD Phase 2 research report out. And then another team were on eliminating last-minute work incidents through technology and adaptation. So just quick report outs. How's it going? Anything we need to know, anything we need to bring back into the company, anything we can adjust right there. And if the research team's wrapping up, we do a lot deeper dive into how are we leveraging that research back into our work processes and governance and procedures. And that's a graphic that Jenny gave me. So that's really CII's net value add, which is improved capital delivery through best practices, research, and people. And that is it. Any questions or anything anyone would like further information on?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you so much for that, Paul. I mean, it's concise but very dense, and it shows the maturity that OPG has in the years that you have been participating in CII to be able to have something that is, in a brief presentation, I think encompasses the numerous layers that have developed in your organization through the years. So thank you for sharing that. And yes, please, let's open it up to questions.
I have a question for you, Paul. Could you share a little bit about kind of the mix or the interest levels that you see of early career versus mid-career versus more advanced in their careers in terms of CII engagement?
It's kind of across the board. I think we're typically targeting what I'll call a senior, sort of a senior engineer, senior role type level into middle management to take on these research team roles. People that are either really gung ho or that they can influence changes in our company and be mature enough to influence what's going on in CII as well. So it's a great opportunity for I'd say up and coming staff to get involved, but it usually is at that sort of people on the verge of heading into sort of middle management role. Is that?
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Hi, this is Mauricio. Oops, sorry.
No, please go ahead, Mauricio.
Yeah, I just like to add that this sector, the facilities and healthcare sector, is kind of rather new to CII. And we really have a lot of catching up to do with the industrial sector or other sectors, I shouldn't say the industrial, as far as the research teams is concerned. Like, for example, I was in the commissioning startup with Matt from your organization, Paul. And at the beginning, I felt really kind of shy about the commissioning startup of the industrial sector, which is, I mean, it's really intense. In facilities, we started doing it because of lead, but now mainly because of the value, thanks to Walt and Akko from our organization. He's the really one who pushed us through into this commissioning startup. But that's just one area where the facilities and healthcare sector needs to benefit from that. And we need to look into a research team just for facilities and healthcare sector in commissioning. But there's many other areas where we really have a lot of catching up to do. I just want to share that.
I think, you think about diversity and diversity of thought. And when I started out on the interface management research team, and we got in there, and I didn't know what I had to contribute. I'm not an interface manager. We manage interfaces sort of ad hoc at the time. It's something we knew we had to do. But all of a sudden you get in there and you start contributing, and your different perspective on these research teams really added value. And I thought, by the second or third meeting, I thought I was adding some value. And then at the end, really working with the team and understanding what the experts are doing, but they're also picking my brain on how it really works and what happens out there in the utility sector. So I wouldn't underestimate your value to a research team if you have an open mind and want to contribute. Anything else? I'll give you a caution. Don't take what we've done and think it's overwhelming or that you have to do all of that. That I just presented a structure. Maybe it's a bit higher end structure than what you'd start out with. But if you have a little structure that you can grow off of, it makes a difference, and a bit of a roadmap as to how you're going to leverage your membership. And maybe it's only 2 or 3 or 4 people at the time. It doesn't have to be 20 people. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It really is what you think you're going to get out of it, and then how you're going to get there. And it may be 3 or 4 people. It could be 15 people. But it's up to your company's appetite to get in and get involved, and also how you see leveraging the people development side of CII with the CBAs and conferences and things like that.
Yeah, this is Lisa. Oh, sorry.
No, please, Lisa, please.
It's not really a question, but I kind of guess just like a thank you. I think this was really helpful. Yeah, like I don't know that my organization is ready for that big of a structure, but the idea that we do have to sort of consciously create the opportunity and the, get the people sort of structured to really implement some of these best practices. I think that is really helpful, and something that I can try to start in my organization as well. So I think, thank you. It's really helpful.
Great.
And as a tag on to what Lisa was just saying, Paul, I think, my question and certainly Mauricio and your comments about, the involvement and that we have some growing to do, I think is the best way in the FHC sector, is Paul, maybe you can speak just briefly to the time that it took for OPG to begin to realize that engagement with CII was actually starting to change the culture of the way that you were approaching projects. Did that take a number of years? Did that take, and I certainly probably a few people had to have a shared vision to be able to move forward.
Yeah, we used to be sort of industry leading we used to be actually the largest construction, I think it was the largest construction company in the world at some point in the 70s and 80s, when we were building power plants like a couple of years type of situation back then. So we had a large 25,000 person construction arm, engineering construction. And so we were leading the way back then on construction practices and project management practices. And then in the 90s, that all disappeared. We weren't building anything anymore. It was all going to go away. And there was still some, so we downsized to basically 10, 12,000 people. We still had some, I guess, bones or structure left over from those times that took us through into the 2000s. But then everyone started to retire, and then all of a sudden, not much is left. So in 2016, 2017, we had some big projects coming at us. We started a project excellence initiative. And so leveraging CII best practices and leveraging industry standard maturity models, we looked at how are we doing against others? Where do we need to improve? And that's where we started to restructure our governance around a project management office, now an enterprise projects organization. I will say that Detroit Edison helped us because they had went through that journey in the early 2000s. So we leveraged some of their experiences, which was part of the power utilities infrastructure sector collaboration that we were working on. So it's nice to be able to pick up the phone and call other people in our industry that have been through it before. And now it's a bit of a natural part where we're always identifying where we're leveraging a best practice, implemented something from CII, and it's good to see it sort of taking root. So I would say from starting that maturity project excellence journey in 2016, 2017, I'd say it's getting institutionalized in 2020. It really takes your PMO, like a project management office, to champion it and drive those CII best practices into your governance and procedures.
Well, that is very helpful, and I know that you know, this will be something that I will be going back to, because there are a lot of things that you said that I will need to look at your slides carefully to be able to, you know, pull things together. But thank you so much for
I'm
taking
happy
time
to
out.
share the terms of reference too, if anyone wants to see that, if it helps them out.
Mhm. Thank you.
No
Thank you
problem.
very much. So any other questions from anybody on the call?
No, just a comment. That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, no problem. I may be back because I've been tasked with building our new head office out on the east end of Toronto. So I'm used to building big dams and wind farms and solar farms, and so now I'm in a whole new world. So
Well, remember one of our case studies on advanced work packaging, one of the research teams, we had a member from Detroit Electric,
yeah.
and they first piloted it on their office renovation,
Oh, did they?
commercial office buildings. Yeah, it's one of our case studies. It was in some of the original research.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, cool. Anyways, thanks for
Excellent.
having me.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for joining us. And again, appreciate your time and the thoughtfulness and the way that you put this together. With a few brief moments, we're able to capture a lot that we're all going to be able to derive value from. So thank you to you, Paul, and Bob, for encouraging us to invite Paul to come on board.